They want to make us out to seem as if, oh, we're criminals. You know, we fill up the jail systems. We can't get along with each other, which I think is absolutely false. But they're blowing that up like that's true, and that's not true.
I think it's about just portraying honest portrayals of all types of masculinity so that people can have things to compare and contrast to.
I want to see more.
That was actor Malik Yoba, featured in the film Afraid of Dark, exploring black masculinity. The documentary tries to explain America's fear of black men. Welcome back to Arise on Screen. I'm Mike Sargent. Recently, I sat down with the woman behind the film, Mya B. I asked her, why are people so afraid of black men?
For so long, we've always seen these images or black men being portrayed as angry, violent, or over-sexualized, and it gets to a point where you kind of believe it because it's so, it's such a part of our mainstream culture, you know, to see these images from, you know, rap videos. I'm not going to say particular hit, rap artists, but, you know, with guns, promoting guns, violence, that type of thing, as well as movies. You know, these are the images of men that you see in movies. I mean, even when you think about Denzel Washington's role and how that was such a negative, such a negative image of him. You know, he's an amazing actor, but yes, he won an award for that, and that image portrayed him as angry and violent. You know, at times even in the movie over-sexual, you know, so I feel like those images are so much thrown at us that we believe it. Even people in the black community believe that about our own black men, you know, to the point where if you see a group, you might cross the street. You know, it's like we've kind of indoctrinated that as well.
Well, you know, it is, and I originally was going to ask you what the impetus was to do this, but once I saw the film, I'm assuming that it was your son. What is that the impetus for you to want to do this? It was
my son, and it's also like just the men in my life, you know. We oftentimes get so caught up in the negative aspect of black men doing negative things. Oh, they're not taking care of their children, or they're not, you know, they don't have jobs, or, you know, all these things that we hear. But I just wanted to profile the black men in my family that I know. Like, my father was amazing. He had his own business. My brother takes care of his children. And then, yes, I'm raising a 15-year-old son alone, and I don't want him to enter in the world with fear that something's going to happen to him. And I don't know if I've done such a good job at that.
Well, you know, even making this film, in my opinion, you've helped go away from what he's being taught from everywhere else. So let me ask you, also, in the film you break down what the categories generally are for black men. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
To me, the main ones, there's so many, you know, you have the Uncle Tom, you have the Sambo. I feel those are safe images because no one's scared of an Uncle Tom or a Sambo because they take authority very well. However, the Mandingo and the Brute, that's over-sexual, he's gonna rape you, or the Brute is he's angry and violent. So those are the two stereotypes I really try to focus on because I feel like those stereotypes have been very detrimental to how black men are criminalized and also murdered. It becomes... And it becomes justified. Yeah, justified. Well, you approached a number of celebrities and intellectuals and scholars and whatnot. How did they react when you told them about this project and what you were doing? Well, it was nice because I didn't have to pull their leg too much. Like, for instance, Cornel West, I went to a high school and got him. And he was like, yeah, call me. You know, I'm doing it. You know, and I was like, yes, you know. And Tom Burrell as well. After reading the book Brainwashed, I was like, I have to get him because when he talks about the Black Inferiority Campaign and him being like, you know, the master of advertising, I was like, I have to talk to him because he knows exactly what's the history of this. Now, the documentary is complete, but you can't really, it's not distributed and you haven't done the festival yet, but people could see the trailer on YouTube right now. Yes. And, well, there's one more thing I have to do as a black man for doing this. I really appreciate it. And that means so much to me because as a female, I remember when I first started 7 years ago, this man asked me, how are you going to tell the story of black men? You know, you're telling our story. But I think I'm good at research. And also, like, I'm also a black daughter. I'm, you know, somebody's daughter. I'm somebody's mother. I'm, you know, someone's sister. So it's like, for me, this is not just a story of black men. This is a story of myself. very compassionate about this.
Well, last question. You started this before the whole Trayvon,
yes,
and probably before Obama was in office.
Yes.
So what were your thoughts with those two very disparate things happening? Obama coming into office, and then what happened with Trayvon. Did it inspire you or fuel you further with what you were doing?
Yeah, I would say Trayvon really, really bothered me. I think over time, it's all bothered me because when I started 7 years ago, I knew in my heart it was relevant. So I was fueled by brothers dying, you know, from Sean Bell to Oscar Grant, all of them. And I feel like Trayvon Martin was the trigger because it created so much buzz and press around that death. And I never even followed the trial because it really hurt my heart that a child was murdered.
Sure.
But it was when I heard that 911 call, I just decided to listen to it, and I just broke down and cried like it's my child, because I couldn't imagine how he got off when I could know in my heart that's a child screaming for their life. And I knew that I had to put that call in there because for me,
open the film with it.
Yeah. For me, the film is more about paying homage to these men. That's why I have like a montage of the brothers that I know that have been murdered and never received justice.
Well, Mya B, I'm very glad you're out there, and I'm very glad you made this documentary.
Thank you so much.
And I hope to have you back when it's in theaters.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
And we will be right back.
He thought it was over. After fighting his way out of a building filled with gangsters and madmen, rookie cop Rama thought he could resume a normal life. He couldn't have been more wrong. The Raid 2 hits theaters this week with some of the most explosive martial arts you'll ever see on screen. When we return, here on Arise on Screen.
There's certain news programs that have a Democrat and a Republican, and all they do is, here's the Democrat saying his side, and the Republican say, you know, it's a little debate show, but not everybody is a sort of an extremist on one side or the other. People are in the middle a lot more.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
That was a scene from The Raid 2. Now, this is a movie that doesn't just push the envelope, it tears it up completely. This is a sequel to writer, director, editor, choreographer Gareth Evans' 2012 Indonesian cult action hit, The Raid, and it picks up moments from where the last film left off. Hi, I'm Mike Sargent, and this is Arise on Screen. With me in the studio are film critics Justine Browning.
Hello.
And Arise entertainment contributor Jack Rico, editor-in-chief of ShowBizCafe.com. And now, first of all, I have to say, I loved The Raid.
Me too, man.
I loved The Raid, and I have to say, I really wonder if they saw it before they made Judge Dredd, which I thought was really close to The Raid.
Oh my God, it was like a
really
ripoff.
It was like a ripoff.
Yeah.
But I loved this movie. I thought it was great. I thought, in a way, him having so much story took away from the action, but you had to go somewhere with it. So I thought I really enjoyed how all the characters that he fought, they were their own characters, like an old school karate movie, like Hammer Girl, who was your favorite character. So now you were somewhat put off by the violence intenseness.
Well, yes, gratuitous violence for me is really hard to stomach, but I think people's sensibilities are different.
People or men?
I don't think it has to do with gender. I really think some people prefer it and don't mind it, but here, the strongest scenes for me were the car chase and the scenes where it wasn't too gruesome and violent. If you take a film like Haywire or further back, the first Matrix, the fight choreography that wasn't too bloody and gruesome, I think was beautiful. It looked like a dance, and I think those scenes are much stronger than anything in this where people are being torn apart by a hammer.
You thought The Matrix 2 was stronger than this?
No.
Okay.
The original. I'm gonna 1999's The Matrix. The other sequels didn't happen.
Okay. Now, Jack, you, like me, were eating this film up.
Absolutely. The Raid to me was the best film of 2012 by far. And I think it revived the martial arts genre tremendously. Indonesia's been doing some really great films like Ong Bak.
Ong Bak.
Okay. I'm talking about.
Sorry, that was a little boy.
So when you start really thinking about, electric, frenetic energy, and you combine that with violence, but by the way, this violence is over the top. It's cartoonish. and you know, to a certain extent, yeah, and extremely well choreographed. I mean, you're talking that last scene that we're watching on TV is one of the longest scenes of a fight that I have seen in modern cinema. The last thing I can go back to is Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. That must have lasted 20 minutes, that fight.
Funny you say that, okay? We're going to move on, but I have to say, when I saw The Raid, it reminded me of the first time I'd seen Enter the Dragon, where you're so pumped by seeing it.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I really liked it. Now, we're going to move on. Our final film is Cesar Chavez, and it's directed by Diego Luna and stars Michael Pena as the union leader and labor organizer, Cesar Chavez. The film also stars Rosario Dawson, John Malkovich, and America Ferrara as his wife, Dolores.
I had never heard the name Helen Chavez before, and diving into this role and learning about who she was so inspiring. She wasn't just Cesar's wife and the mother to his kids. She ran the credit union. She protested. She got arrested. She was a pivotal part in forming the union, and I'm so grateful that the story of this woman is being told at the same time.
We have to have an army of boycotters willing to do the hard work. The bigger the army, the bigger the success.
Farm workers in Delano, California have begun an unprecedented strike in the Central Valley.
The citizens of Delano, they respect the law.
So do we, especially the Bill of Rights.
Have you seen the headlines they're getting? That's costing us real money, Mr. Bogdanovich.
We don't have to negotiate. We have to dictate terms.
Caesar, they will shoot.
We're gonna break this damn strike.
It's all lies. They're saying the strike is not legal.
Now, I think all three of us agree we only knew a little bit about Cesar Chavez, which I think was part of the reason why Diego Luna wanted to make this film. And Jack, you liked this film, and you liked the fact that it was shedding a light on him, but you thought it was somewhat bland and not that exciting.
Yeah, you know, I think that the story should have been told. I mean, Cesar Chavez, for us Hispanics, I'm Latino, my parents are from Colombia, and it's probably the closest thing we have to a Martin Luther King or a Nelson Mandela, but obviously the efforts of what they were doing was at such a much larger scale. They were affecting countries, generations moving forward. In this particular case, it was very, you know, small compared to that, and don't disrespect to the farmers, but this story in itself doesn't necessarily lend itself to a compelling, weighty drama in the sense of a Malcolm X or even a Capote or Lincoln by Steven Spielberg. I mean, we're talking about also biopics like Schindler's List. It never reaches those heights of grandeur, and unfortunately, it's a modest film, but I thought a documentary should have been much better.
Well, you know, there is a documentary coming up.
That's right, yeah.
The Last Fast, I think it's called, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks. But, you know, I have to say, I somewhat agree with you, but I do think that this film was smart, like some biopics do, where it took a section of his life.
Right.
And probably the most pivotal section in what he did. And as you watch these things, there are a lot of things that you just didn't know and you didn't realize, because it's at its core, it's a human rights film. Now, you were a little more impressed with this movie.
Well, I was. I think Michael Pena captured so well the fact that he he didn't take to being a public figure.
Right, that was not his calling.
Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela did. Public speaking was not his strong suit. He didn't give these rousing speeches that you can remember and quote, but I believe we talked about Yes, We Can.
Right.
From Obama's campaign.
Right, I was very surprised
came from that, which was, like many things in this film, something I didn't know. And I think, yes, at times it did veer into TV movie territory, but I'm somebody as an audience member, I respond well to passion projects. It's so clear that Diego Luna put 4 years into this movie, is passionate about telling this story, and I think that is apparent when you watch it.
Well, I agree with you, and I think the fact that Diego Luna is a young actor still with a long career ahead of him, wanted to actually get this made and directed himself, I think says a lot. And I think the actors involved all felt passion of this, that it did a good job. And I think the comparisons to Mandela are apt, because, you know, also he neglected his family for something that was a bigger cause.
Right, right. There's some similarities there.
There were. Well, I have to say, this has been great. I definitely would like to have the both of you back, and hope you disagree on films again.
Our colors again.
We'll keep on disagreeing, her and I, you know, throughout the
And then next time, let me in on the gray-black conversation, so I can know.
Next time.
I'm Mike Sargent, and we'll be back next week to talk more movies here on Arise on Screen.